Testing, check. Oh, cool. Now it's working. Testing, check. Can you stand next to him so I can stay focused? On the other side. Other side. Selfie. Cool. All right. Thank you. Okay, today we're here with Rampage. Can you introduce yourself and what kind of activism you got involved in the old days?
Yeah, Rampage was an anarchist and Antifa activist back in the late 90s and early 2000.
How did you first got into the whole anarchist movement?
I met some guy on a bus that was spanging, I guess as they called it back then. And he told me he was part of a group called the August Collective. Asked me if I hate the cops, and I said, yeah. He's like, do you want to fuck up cops? I said, yeah. He's like, dude, you should join this group. So I said, okay, dude, if you're against the cops, I'll fucking join. So I ended up going to meetings, and then, I just got wrapped up in it from there.
For the August Collective, what kind of activities were they doing?
Mostly politically organizing in the community, feeding the homeless, but the main activity for August Collective was organizing for the anarchist conference, which was bringing anarchists from around the country together. It was right before the Democratic National Convention, so it was kind of like a dual-prong activity where we had an anarchist conference, and then right after that we were protesting against the DNC. So most of those people were like involved in the Black Bloc as well, so there was a lot of overlap with that.
In the old days, when you guys used to organize Black Bloc, like in Long Beach, you used to get 100, and DNC, you guys get a lot. I mean, even different events, you used to get a lot of people and stuff. What happened to all the activists from the old days? What do they do now?
I have no clue. A lot of them just grew up and they have kids now, or the ones that were really militant and hardcore, they went to prison. And then when they got out, I'm sure they retired at this point. But yeah, there used to be several hundred that would show up at protests, and it would get crazy. Like, it would get insane. Like, there'd be tear gas. I mean, we took over downtown LA during the Democratic National Convention, where they had to call out full squads of riot police and shut the city down. Yeah, and that was like all punk rockers, pretty much.
And then there was also the May Day, 100 Black Bloc activists got arrested and stuff, which was all punk rockers and anarchists. But now we're in a different time. It's 2018.
Right.
And now there's like different organization. There's communist organization, and then the group called Antifa and stuff.
Right.
Back then it was not like that. You never see a communist joining with the anarchist group. How did things change like this now?
I couldn't say like how the communists got strong. I mean, I don't know if they're stronger than the anarchists at this point. I think a lot of students got involved, a lot of like middle class, upper class students, and they tend to jump on kind of complex political theories. Well, back in like 90s and early 2000s, it was more like homeless kids and runaways and, like people that were pretty like working class, poor. I saw a dramatic difference when I got out of prison on the type of membership, even in the anarchist movement, had changed. And there was a lot of divisiveness, I'm sure, that pushed a lot of people out, including myself. I left because of that. So, that could have affected it as well.
I wasn't there, but I heard when you got out, you were at a meeting, and there was all these college students, the new generation of anarchists. How did it change? What was your experience when you met them at the meeting?
It was just the oppression Olympics. Like, everybody claimed that they're oppressed. These were people that grew up in like Irvine, Laguna Beach. Like, they're not. How are you going to talk about representing the working class people if you're rich? You have no clue. And then to say that you're oppressed is a stretch at the very best, and there was a lot of shout of people calling people privileged. I got called privileged, and I was an ex-convict.
How long were you in jail for?
3 years.
And you were a member of the Crips?
Yeah, I'm not going to go into that. But the Crips did align themselves with what I was doing. And they did protect me while I was in there, yeah.
How did you survive in there? Because the thing is, even Mayday people who went to county jail, they've witnessed violence, and sometimes a lot of activists, especially back then animal rights activists, they go to jail, they get jumped, but when they come out, they don't want to say anything. What are chances, like, how do activists or people like that deal with that whole prison politics situation that people we don't discuss about when people come out and stuff?
It's difficult to answer because I had to do a lot of adapting. I don't know if other people can do the same thing. Like, I reached out to street gangs that were in my city, like Long Beach, and people that I knew that were already in there. I had contacts, and I influenced as many people as I could. I had backings of street gangs. That's what saved my life in there. I mean, every time the Nazis would come at me, we would have a riot on the yard. And then when we'd have a riot on the yard, I'd end up in the security housing unit. I spent like a year in the security housing unit for manufacturing a weapon to try and stab Nazis. And yeah, I mean, I think part of the reasons I did a year in the SHU, that was a little good time off the yard. But a lot of it had to deal with the Crips and the Bloods. A lot of them are politically conscious, so they were definitely sympathetic towards what I did, what my crime was. So them having my back had everything to do with why I made it out, because I did have a price on my head. I mean, they call it what's called a gold card, which means they'll give you like soups and coffee and basically like $300 or $400 worth of commissary if you go hit this certain person. So I had that on my head, but I had enough people around me and stayed within the group and stayed within the security that they couldn't get me. I mean, I did get stabbed a few times in the hand, but that was about it.
Quick question, just to rewind it a little bit. Before you went in, I remember you had a meeting at Luna Soul Cafe with ex-members of Crips and Bloods. Back then it was called the Black Writers Liberation Party.
Right.
You guys were having a meeting with all the anarchists and the writers because you guys were going to exchange the prison thing.
Right.
Whatever happened to that project? Did anything came out of that? And what was the goal from that meeting? Because I remember you guys were having a meeting. I remember one family came to support political prisoners. They thought it was for political prisoners. Once they started talking, they got scared and left. I remember that. You guys are just talking crazy. I was just tripping out too.
I mean, myself and some other militant anarchists, but I mean, especially myself, like I got along really well with the Black Writers Liberation Party because we saw eye to eye on the fact that we needed to be militant, not in the street, and they respected that. They also helped me when I was inside, like Taco did. I can't say anything came out of the meeting because I had gone down and got arrested for trying to blow up Hitler's birthday party in the middle of all that. But Taco threw full support like behind me when I was going through the court case. Like, he sent me an attorney. He was at rallies saying that he was going to shoot cops if they didn't let me out.
Oh, that attorney, the activist attorney.
Yeah.
And what year was this?
2001, I believe.
Right. I'm not going to go into it, but this was 2001, just letting folks know. So it was a while back.
Yeah.
So also at the meeting, I heard you were at some kind of anarchist collective meeting many years ago, and when you got out, you said you want to do like a self-defense class or something I heard, and somebody got mad and they want you out or something. What's that story about? I'm just tripping out on that one.
When I got out, I tried to see like, all right, how's the anarchist movement looking right now? They had an organization that was kind of disorganized called the Southern California Anarchist Federation. So I got involved in that, and then I started going up and down the coast of California, trying to, put collectives together into a federation, try and get things more organized. Yeah, but there was a fallout over. I wanted a bylaw that people needed to work out on a regular basis to prepare. And there are, some elements in there that were like, that's ableist, like you can't have people working out, like you're discriminating against people's bodies. But in reality, it's delusional if you think that you're an anarchist and you're promoting armed struggle, which is what they were doing. you're not going to do any armed struggle not on a regular workout routine and any kind of discipline or firearms training. Like, if that's what you're trying to do, I'm not saying to do that, but if that's what you're going to do, you can do it right, you know? I mean, if you're going to go out there, I mean, you see right now, like with anarchists fighting the Proud Boys and the skinheads and whatnot, I mean, the shape that people are in when they're fighting these guys that are huge is like a 150-pound guy, and he's like trying to flail around. He has no fighting technique, and meanwhile this is some ex-Marine guy with a MAGA hat on, and he's just knocking them out. Unacceptable. Like, you need to get into the gym. I go to the gym 5 times a week. I make sure that I eat healthy, you know, and that I'm in tip-top shape. And I'm not even going out there fighting right now. I'm retired. But people that are going out there doing that, the new generation, they need to get their shit in order for sure if they're going to be doing that. I mean, if you're going to do it right. That's what I always say.
In the old days, then, since your group with Long Beach and stuff, they had a Long Beach info shop and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You guys were more radical, but how did you deal with the peace punk or the people who were anarchists, but they were more of the crass, the whole anarcho-punk stuff, and they were into nonviolence and they didn't want to fight? How did you deal with that crowd? And how did you continue to work with them, even you guys have whole different views?
I mean, we had solidarity with anyone that was an anarchist. We didn't really have any problems with people that were pacifists because they pretty much supported what we did, and we showed up at shows. They supported what we did as well. I mean, there was some division between people like Direct Action Network that would actively try and block us at protests from using violence, and they were like all about nonviolence. And to be honest, like, those people, we didn't really have any love for them at all. I mean, sometimes it got into physical confrontations because they would try and arrest their own protesters.
Or they'll snitch on the police.
Yeah, they snitch to the police. So, I mean, then that kind of behavior is unacceptable. But, I mean, as far as, like, peace punks, we always got along with them for sure.
This is an important question since you were in jail. And also street politics. There's a no snitching law and stuff like that.
Right.
The whole thing on the street. But, like, people who are either a rapist or child molesters, me personally, I believe they should be on Megan's Law, and the community should know where these folks are living and stuff like that. So if let's say, for example, somebody's a woman abuser or rapist or like child abuse and stuff, calling the police so I could get them on Megan's Law. If I go to jail, is that considered snitching? Would I get jumped for that or not?
No. I mean, you're snitching on a child molester. I mean, they make you show your paperwork when you go to prison, right? Usually they catch informants because someone has court documents showing that. I mean, you can't just go around being like, he told on me, and then all of a sudden this guy gets stabbed. Like, we call it holding court. You hold court, you got to present evidence to the shot caller, whoever it is, and show them like, hey, this guy snitched on me. Here's the documentation. Like, this guy testified. You know, here's the documentation. He testified in court. Then he's gone, right? As far as child molesters, rapists, woman abusers, they already get killed in prison anyways. Nobody cares about those people. They're disgusting.
Okay, yeah, because so that's a pass. So I was always wondering that no snitch law. Hey, wait a minute, I'm a little confused about that because if there's somebody, I want them to be on the file,
on a rapist,
and I want them to be like on the radar, so the community know where they live, and because a lot of families when they move around, they'll type in the zip code to see if there's any people like that living in the area, or they want to make sure it's kid safe and stuff like that.
I ran it on a coworker just the other day.
What happened?
A coworker. I just kind of got a creepy vibe, so I looked him up on Megan's Law.
He was on it?
Someone on my work. No, it turned out he wasn't on it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So that's the thing I was wondering. Okay, now we're in a different time now. 9/11 happened. Everything changed. Technologies changed. Politics changed. Organization changed. Me personally, I want to see more people like anarchist movement or organizing the community, because a lot of times like everyday people, they watch TV, they go, oh, they're violent, they just want to break things, they don't know anything about. I know a lot of them are connected with food not bombs and stuff like that, but to the new movement right now, what would you like to see?
I would definitely like to see them back out into the community organizing in the community itself and asking the community what they need. Not assume what they need, not make demands or claim that they're the people or play the oppression Olympics or whatever to like make people feel sorry for them. They should be going out in the community and then asking the community what they need exactly and then fulfilling those needs. There is a lot of needs that need to be fulfilled in LA or I mean any kind of metropolitan area. You can go around. I mean, there's people that are suffering, right? Anarchists always help people that were suffering. And the only reason why we get violent in the streets is to stop oppression and to show, even in the media, yeah, the media is going to be like, okay, oh my God, the anarchists are here, they're violent. Cool, dude. I would rather them say that and then show what they're protesting about. Like, oh my God, these windows are getting broken, cops are getting fucked up, and it's behind whatever it is, police brutality, right? How much attention is going to come to the cause if you're out there banging on drums, marching around with puppets, and it looks like a dance party? Nothing, dude. No one's going to pay attention to you. So the reason why anarchists are out there smashing shit is because that was the quickest way to get the public eye on something, right? But that's not all what anarchism's about. 90% of the time, I'd say 99% of the time, we were out there in the community organizing. We were active with several different groups, including, you know, like you were talking about earlier, Black Riders Liberation Party. And I don't see those connections right now.
Also, time has changed ever since you got out. A lot of things changed. A lot of punk rockers left the anarchist movement. They don't want to get involved with it anymore because it said,
right.
I asked them, they said it's like, feel like they're going to college, they can't relate to it. It's like, what's that word? It's like academic. So that's why they don't want to get involved with the anarchist book fair. Back in the days, the punks were organizing anarchist book fair. Punks were organizing South California Anarchist Gathering. But punks are completely separated from that now. Why is that?
It is hard. I mean, dealing with academics, it is hard. It is difficult because, I mean, everybody these days is not really happy about the whole cry closet generation. Let me tell you, you know, it's not just the punk rockers. There's a lot of people. I mean, like, punk rockers are used to saying whatever comes out of their mouth without any censor whatsoever, right? But with the academic types, they're like, you know, anything could offend them, so it's really difficult to communicate with them. You know what I'm saying? Like, for the common person that's not, like, in their group, they've isolated themselves. Like, a lot of those activist groups isolate themselves. You go walk around the street, you talk to people, they don't talk like whatever the fuck they're talking about. They don't talk like that, you know? It's like, and half the words that they're talking about, like in the buzzwords and all the weird shit, you know, and like using like words like bourgeoisie and fucking, you know, I don't even know all the words. I mean, I had conversations with activists and half the shit they were saying, I had no clue what they were talking about.
I was joking around a long time ago because, you know, there's like community support, the Gang Truth Office and stuff like that.
The what?
Community support, the Gang Truth Office in Western and Michael Zinson when he was alive.
Yeah.
But I was joking with my friend, if the Gang Truth was around, if Bloodhound was around, we take them to the activist meeting, they would get kicked out.
Lose it.
They would get kicked out.
So I mean, like,
it's hard to work with people from the streets because like people want safe space, but we need a more like a radical revolutionary safe space. What they do is kick people out if they accidentally say different or like a street slang or use certain word because they grew up in that different environment.
Well,
I think it's important.
That's the thing too, Jay, is you were talking about earlier, like what would activists do if they went to prison? How the fuck are they going to communicate with anybody in prison? Because you go talk to Crips and Bloods and street gang members, and then you talk like that, they're not going to know what the fuck you're talking about. They're not going to support you. You're going to be completely isolated. Like, and then you're going to turn around and say that you represent the people. That's ridiculous.
All right. I just want to say, welcome back.
Hey, thank you.
And sorry, the new generation treated you like that, and when you got out.
That's okay. You know what? I'm going to say some good things about the new generation. I went over to the Red Anarchist Skinhead table. They gave me a free T-shirt. They said thank you for your service, you know, for the stuff that I did in the past to the Nazis. And those guys seem pretty cool. They're still cleaning the streets and doing a good job and keeping these Nazi pieces of shit off the